Beat 'em up games have always been a style of gaming that was close to the bottom of my list of favorite genres. This was clearly a bias I had from the days of playing in local arcades, where you could find games in every corner that consisted of waves of enemies that you just have to pummel one after another. These games were fun in short bursts, but quickly got old as typically they were either unapologetically hard or lacking in any sort of depth. Later on, I found a love for games that told great stories, or had a huge expansive world to explore. But for the most part, beat 'em ups were just mind-numbing and frankly boring to me. My interest in exploring new ways to game has evolved exponentially since I was younger. Now I find myself trying new gaming mediums constantly over the past few years. Simulators, turn-based games, fighting games, and about anything else I could get my hands on. Yet there still wasn't anything that drew me towards those arcade beat-em-ups that I typically avoided when I was a kid. In an effort to further explore games that have flown under my radar for far too long, Yakuza 0 was suggested to me by a random GameStop employee saying it was criminally underrated. Obviously I had heard of the series in the past from other YouTubers, but it never struck me as a game that I would enjoy until now. So, is it worth all of the hype given to it from its small yet dedicated fan base, or is it a touch too weird for me? Let me fill you in as I try to review Yakuza 0. In order to get on the same page with this review, here's a brief synopsis of the story to catch you up to speed. There are a few mild spoilers for the first few chapters, so if you want to go in the game without knowing anything, here's your warning. Yakuza 0 is a prequel to the series set in 1980s Tokyo. It might be important to mention, if you didn't know already, Yakuza are basically the Japanese mafia. We're going to be primarily focusing on the Dojima family that rule the streets of Kamurocho. The stars of the show are two wonderfully colorful characters. Kazuma Kiryu has been the lead character of the majority of the series, famously known as the Dragon of Dojima. In this game, however, you get to see his early days, before he was in his prime. Kiryu is a 20-year-old debt collector trying to make his way up in the ranks of the Yakuza. Tragically, his efforts are cut short when he is framed for murder and is forced to abandon the Yakuza completely. Kiryu's journey primarily focuses on the mysterious empty lot where he was initially framed, and his struggle to prove his innocence and weasel his way back into the crime family. Our other lead role, Goro Majima, is in a similar position as Kiryu. He's the owner of a high-class cabaret, but secretly has been trying to find his way back into the Yakuza himself. I've already argued that he could be one of the greatest video game characters of all time, so make sure you check out that video in the description. Anyways, Majima is given the opportunity to join back to his crime family ways if he can assassinate a target for his boss. It isn't until the last minute when he comes to the realization that his target is actually a pleasant-natured blind girl. So he begins a mental battle to decide whether or not he is truly a killer. Phew, okay. With that covered, let's get into the review. First of all, the story is truly something special. Very rarely do plot twists in video games catch me off guard, but Yakuza 0 is teeming with them. As soon as you think you have it all figured out, the plot says hold on just a minute and pulls the carpet out from under you. These subversions don't feel cheap in any way either. They always make total sense to the plot and even are hidden in plain sight at times. There are so many interesting characters that are memorable too. It's pretty surprising when you find yourself actually invested emotionally in a side character, but there are so many of them that will steal your heart, especially with huge cinematic moments that define who they are. There are a lot of cutscenes in this game, but seeing the whole convoluted plot fall gracefully together by the end is extremely satisfying and unforgettable. Next up, let's talk a little bit about the open world aspect. There is a monumentous amount of activities to partake in Kamurocho and Sotenbori. Bowling, dancing, RC car racing, gambling, karaoke, the list goes on, to a point where there's rarely a moment to stop and take in the beautiful city streets. There's even a speed dating service for Pete's sake. Some would say there's even too much content to partake in, including over 100 well thought out side quests. These missions are always lighthearted and actually really funny. I can't remember the last time a game actually made me laugh out loud, but this game did that for me. I think that the largest appeal of this series is its side content, but they went above and beyond any expectation I had. By far my favorite minigame was the cabaret management, where you could recruit employees off the street and turn a rundown restaurant into a 5-star cabaret. For the side content alone, 10 out of 10, this stuff rules. Finally, we can talk about the combat and gameplay mechanics. Obviously I already told you that I used to have a distaste for beat 'em ups. So did Yakuza 0 change my perspective? To be entirely honest, I wasn't extremely impressed at the start of the game, but that all changed when I started to unlock the different fighting styles. Each fighting style is uniquely curated for specific encounters and confrontations. For instance, the Thug style is perfect for fighting bosses and getting in close, while the Slugger is much better for taking on large groups of enemies at once. Hands down, my favorite stance has to be the Breaker style, because there is nothing more stylish than literally breakdancing into battle. Having so many fighting styles definitely help the combat never get boring or stale, especially when you start to understand how to utilize this skill tree that gives you new combos. All in all, Yakuza 0 completely changed my mind about beat-em-up games in general. Sometimes I would find myself literally hunting for combat encounters just to get out some built-up aggression. What's even cooler than the combat is the music. High-energy hardcore synth rock is the name of the game in Yakuza, and they take zero shortcuts when it comes to the variety of music. Every time you change fighting styles, the music morphs into more fitting variations so the main battle theme never gets boring. That's not even including the disco and karaoke music that will transport you right back to the 80s nostalgia. Also, how could you forget the song that absolutely defined this generation? All in all, a groundbreaking story, characters that will make you laugh and cry, a full world of hard rock possibilities. Yakuza 0 deserves its title as an underrated gem. I'm disappointed I never invested myself in the life of Kazuma Kiryu sooner, but for that reason, I'm going to give Yakuza 0 a 9 out of 10. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Let me know your thoughts on the game in the comments below. Is this your first Yakuza game? Be sure to let me know. Also, only 7% of you guys who watch my videos are actually subscribed, and I'm trying to reach 100 subs by the end of the month, so if you could help me out, that would be greatly appreciated. You can always just change your mind, so it can't hurt, right? Anyways, keep on gaming to the fullest, and I'll see you guys next time. See ya!